Hi, I'm Rob Levin from Work Better Now. Welcome to another episode of Working Better Now. I'm thrilled to be joined today by Eliot Wajskol. Eliot is an EOS implementer. We're going to get into that in a couple of minutes. Eliot, thanks so much for joining us.
You bet. Thanks so much. I appreciate it.
Awesome. So, Eliot, you're an EOS implementer, but before we get into that, tell us a little bit about how you got to EOS, or really what you did before that.
Yeah, you bet. So my backdrop is 26 at the time when I was 26. Ended up joining a startup, founder-led change management business, and it was just one of those rocket ship rides. 11 years, we grew the business about 25 million at the time I rolled off. Really strong culture, a journey. From there, I worked with a couple founders of a retail healthcare clinic chain. It's a way of delivering healthcare that kind of set a different model in the Pacific Northwest where I live now. Worked with the founders to headed up people and operations, put in place the processes and systems they needed to grow and scale their business, get their first outside capital. And I think the way that I best describe it is I had a really misplaced sense of invincibility from a business perspective. Started up my own business. It was a barbershop chain concept. And it was one of those journeys that was just profound for me. It did fine. I couldn't scale it the way that I wanted to. I hit my ceiling effectively at that point. But what I took away from that was one is my sweet spot was just different. It's working with business owners, it's working with founders, visionary leaders to help them grow and succeed. But the other couple of things I took away from it is that everything I'd done previously might have been some decent things, but it was all through brute force. Personally, the rest of the world didn't necessarily need to know it. I was terrified almost every day. Felt like I was in a fog. And that takes its toll. It takes its toll on your teams. It takes its toll on family. It takes its toll on friends. The other thing I just had a passion for that I realized is I love helping organizations and teams figure out how to get from point A to point B. The question that I had was, is there a slipstream? And so ultimately that led me on a journey of working with a lot of different organizations, but it led me ultimately to Entrepreneurial Operating System, which to me it's just a framework, a way of looking at the world, set of disciplines and tools to help an organization grow, run more effectively. But ultimately, when you're doing both more effectively, it helps everyone live a better life as well. So that's really my triple passion: help organizations run more effectively, drive growth. But as leaders, can we also live better lives?
Gotcha. Fantastic. Thanks for sharing that part of your journey. And by the way, for everybody, and I'm going to ask you to talk more about this, we are a company that's, running on EOS. We've been doing it now for, I think, a little less than a year. It's fantastic. Our entire leadership team loves it. Eliot, tell us a little bit more about EOS and what your role as an EOS implementer is.
You bet. So when I look at EOS and what does it do, if I just pull it all the way back, in the end, organizations and leadership teams operate most effectively. They've got the greatest chance of executing and delivering on what they set out to do if they are truly aligned. If they can actually see where they're trying to go, they're truly aligned on what their vision is. They can see where are we going to be in 3 years, in 1 year, over the next 90 days. We're aligned from a vision standpoint. If they have a way of looking at the world that says we truly understand what it means to have the right people in the right seats, doing the right work at the right times, both what should we be doing, what shouldn't we be doing. They've got the right data at their disposal, so they know the measurables that matter. And when you've got a team that sees the same picture and is truly aligned and holding hands, you got the right people in the right seats, they're using the measurables that matter and acting on them, you just start creating a more transparent organization because you start smoking out issues and everyone's aligned and working toward the right thing. When you couple that with a really radical way of identifying issues before they become big, and then standing them up to knock them down, but putting the right proportional effort against it. So you're constantly making progress on what you're setting out to do, but you're removing the roadblocks and barriers. Put that together with the right process and the right systems, not too much, but not too little, to energize and power your company. And then you have a really effective way of meeting so that you're constantly gaining traction and executing on what you set out to do. You create a working system that helps you run the business every week, every quarter, every year. That in nutshell is EOS. It's an operating system that lets you do that and helps organizations power through it. Rob, you're living it. Hopefully that captures in a nutshell what EOS does.
I think you nailed it, which I would expect as an EOS implementer, which we're going to get to in a second. I would say that there's one other thing that I think about, which is now we also now have this common language. That's not just necessarily specific to our business, but specific in terms of how we get things done and how we tackle things, which is all part of all of those elements that you mentioned before. And it's really powerful. It doesn't guarantee success, but it really sets the table for a successful business. Tell us a little bit about the role of, or your role as an EOS implementer.
Yeah, I think the way that I view my role is threefold. It's really supporting an organization in implementing this way of operating and executing, and then just getting out of the way so the organization can go. And it really supporting in three ways: as a trainer or a teacher, as a coach, and as a facilitator. So trainer from the standpoint of introducing a set of tools and disciplines and introducing them in a sequence and a cadence that makes sense for any individual organization, so they're moving at the right pace, different for every organization. A facilitator from the standpoint of at the end of the day, helping to make sure that the team has come to an alignment on any particular topic, but more importantly, that there's an actionable next step, so that there's an aligned team that knows what the next step is that they're going to take. And it goes from the perspective of, I do take it to the field of play in sport. Everyone knows how to run their routes really, really well. Sometimes the coaches has the benefit of seeing those routes run in different ways. And sometimes they can help the team get more out of themselves than they ever thought possible. That's how I think about my role. Yeah.
Makes a lot of sense. From our perspective, we're working with an implementer as well here in New York, but he's also really making sure that we understand the concept and all of the different, there's so many nuances of EOS. And like you said, it's kind of timed in a way where not everything's thrown at you at once, which would be nuts. It's really so powerful. How long have you been an EOS implementer, Eliot?
So formally, a couple of years.
Right.
Informally, this is work I've been doing, when I look back at my career, my entire life.
Yeah. And if you think about the clients that you've had over that period of time as an EOS implementer, if you think about that, what are let's start with what are some of the things that companies typically should be doing better that EOS, let's not get into where they ended up, but what are you come into a company, I always like to call this, you've seen a lot of movies before, right? I've seen this before. What are some of the common things that you see that companies are not doing before or are doing that they shouldn't be doing before they run on EOS?
Yeah, that's such a great question. And I think the backdrop is the organizations that I work with on the surface look really different. I've got companies that are a couple $1 million. I've got companies that are $600 million. I've got teams that are as small as 3, as large as 350, and across all industries. I think that the parallels, though, some of the challenges that they're facing. One, I think, is that very frequently we just aren't clear about where are we going and how are we going to get there. There's a leadership team that isn't truly aligned. They may not even have ever had the conversation that says, where do we want to be 10 years from now? Do we have a shared crystal clear picture of where we want to be 3 short years from now? Are we truly aligned on what we're trying to accomplish just 1 year from now? And have we radically prioritized what we can accomplish over the next 90 days? So one is that there's a team that says, we're not quite clear on where we're going and what we're trying to do. We're just doing. But if you can't see it, it's really hard to get there. I think the second pain point oftentimes that I see with organizations is the frustration that a leader oftentimes has is, I'm not sure I have the right people and I'm not sure if they're in the right seats, and really pulling it back to say, we've actually built an organization that's based on structure. We are really clear on the bodies of work that have to get done in our unique organization really well. Doesn't matter who's in that, who owns it. We just got to get done really well. And then we have a way of looking at the world that says, do we have the right person in the right seat, whether it's from the behaviors we need to have from every single person radically or from their capabilities. And then I think the third really large pain point is we keep trying to get stuff done, but we can't seem to execute with discipline. We keep getting to the end of a period of time and we are dissatisfied with our ability to accomplish what we set out to do. And so those are 3 things that I find are common in every single one of those organizations, that sense of, I got a team, but I don't know that we're all rowing in the same direction. I don't know that I got the right team. And if I look at the results, we just can't seem to consistently do what it is that we set out to do.
Yeah. Sounds very familiar. Let's put it that way. Very familiar. And when we started with the EOS, we were on this big growth ramp, but Yeah, it's been incredibly helpful. I don't want to do a spoil alert for the next question, which is, okay, so now you're working with the company a year, 2 years. What are some of the net results? Not, okay, now we're all aligned, but what are some of the net results that come out of working from EOS? Because it may not necessarily be around growth, right? Or I would imagine that's a big part of it. I'm not going to answer the question for you. I'm just curious, like, what do you, companies run on EOS for a year or 2 years? What does that typically look like?
Yeah, and by the way, what I do also want to say, and I'll describe that, and I think the context maybe to provide a little context is, while I described those pain points earlier, the organizations I work with are really good organizations.
Mhm.
What they haven't yet found is a slipstream. Sometimes they're executing amazingly, but it almost feels like they're executing in spite of themselves. When I look at the outcome, as they go through a journey of implementing EOS for the clients that I work with, I think what they begin to find is, number one, I have a team. I have a team that is looking, not just my leadership team, but ultimately my entire organization has a shared vision. We're all on the same page about where we're going. And quarter after quarter after quarter, we're on the same page about how we're going to get there at the leadership team, at the department level, at the individual level. I think there's a shared sense that if I look to the right, I look to the left, I've got the right team members, not just at the leadership team level, but throughout. I have a common language on what it means to have the right person. And I truly have the right people doing the right work, saying yes, harder to the right stuff, no, harder to the right stuff. When I look forward, I've got a team that's radically focused on the measurables that matter at the leadership level and every single department. And we're not just looking at reports, the few measurables, and every week we're peeling apart what do we got to do to course correct if anything is off track. We're a team that's just really good at identifying and knocking down issues, systematically putting the right effort against it. We don't get bogged down in them. We're really efficient in how we meet, how we discuss. Oftentimes we meet less. We're just really efficient. We've systemized the processes that matter. But the biggest thing I think overall is there's just this feeling when I talk to some of my clients, there's a heartbeat and a cadence of how we work. And it just starts feeling like it's systematic. Every year we come together, we do certain work. Every quarter we're doing certain work. Every week we're getting certain work. And the result, I think, in the end, is what clients are beginning to find is that they're achieving the growth goals that they had set out to do. There's no magic dust. They're doing the work, but they're more easily getting to the goals that they set out to do, whether it's revenue, whether it's growth, whether it's just creating the right company culture. The goals that they set out for themselves, they're achieving. And then more than that, at an individual level, at a leadership level, they're living better lives because they feel that they've created more of a self-managing organization where the people below them are doing the work, more of the work, and they are where they truly belong in their unique abilities. And so are their team members.
Yeah, yeah, it's the whole unique ability concept is so powerful, and from the owner's perspective, it's really magical when you're just working in your unique ability. It's kind of hard to get to, but it's really magical. You said something earlier too, which I also think is so powerful, which is it's not about working harder.
Correct.
I think of that in two different buckets. Number one, with EOS, you now have a framework, so it's the work becomes more. I hate to use the word efficient because I think it's almost more effective. I think that's much more powerful than efficient. And I also think I'm guessing you might be familiar with Dan Sullivan and Strategic Coach and this notion of 10x versus 10x is easier than 2x. For those of you who don't know it, just go get the book. It's great. Let's talk a little bit about your practice. How many clients do you typically have, and what does your engagement with them typically look like?
So approximately 20 plus clients. I'm working about 100 to 110 days specifically focused with clients in a year. Journey is typically a couple of years that I'm working with a client. My goal really is to get out of their way, for them to implement a system that has them saying we've got it, and my goal is to help them graduate and say we've mastered this way of operating, so I can get out of the way and they're off and running.
Yeah. And what does your team look like to do that? Is it just you?
So the core part of my team is Nolene Charles. She's a non-virtual assistant who we have through Work Better Now, and that's our core team. And for me, when I look at it, I run on EOS effectively as well. And so, we talked about unique ability, we talked about making things work easier, et cetera. And she's a core part of my team because there's no way I could be doing what I'm doing without being able to delegate a whole lot of work, almost everything. So that, within the EOS language, we use the phrase delegate and elevate so that I can do that. If I look at my unique ability, it's the ability, or to say it differently, what am I passionate about? What do I feel that I do really well? And I truly love doing? It's being in a room facilitating a session. It's having a couple of help first conversations with folks. It's doing talks and workshops. Almost everything else, I just don't love doing. I'm not good at it, and et cetera. And for me, that's my team. Nolene, my assistant through Work Better Now, helps me with just about everything else, so I can focus where I need to be focused.
Fantastic, and thanks for sharing that. How did you run your business before you had an assistant?
It's a great question. I kind of get a little bit metric focused every now and then. So how I ran it, as I was growing and scaling, I was doing everything. And I have to say that that meant that at the very beginning, I was doing my own bookkeeping. I was sending out invoices. I was scheduling absolutely everything. It's a relatively mechanically a more simple business than maybe many others, but I was doing everything. It was just me doing it. When I looked at what I'm good at, what I'm terrible at, if I come back to that concept of the work that I truly love doing, that I'm great at, which is where I need to be for the good of my organization, it's not accidental. I was spending about 17% of my time in that category. The remainder of my time was being spent doing things that I don't like doing and I'm not good at, doing things that maybe I was good at, but I shouldn't have been doing anymore. And not enough time in the areas that I really needed to be spending time in to truly grow my business to where others couldn't do it better than I could. And which, quite frankly, give me the energy and passion to just keep going and go harder.
Gotcha. All right. Thanks for sharing that. And that, I guess, leads me to my next question, and you've kind of alluded to this a little bit. So now that you have Nolene, I think you said you're about 8 months in working with her. What has having Nolene enabled you to do at the end of the day? In other words, is it more time to do X, Y, and Z, less time doing this? Has the business grown? Tell us just a little bit about that, please.
So the business has grown radically, and we've worked really closely on systemizing everything behind our business so that I can continue quarter by quarter, week on week, to just look at anything that creates drag for me, anything where I'm not truly great at doing it, and just saying, can we offload that? Can we peel that back? So for our practice, virtually all emails that are routine, that are really about the ongoing execution of delivering great client experience, we've routinized. Nolene owns it. Should I have repeatable travel? She owns that. Should I have invoices to be sent out? I don't touch those invoices anymore. Bookkeeping off my plate. I do have a virtual bookkeeping company that does some of the work, but anything that's an interface, she's got. Yeah. So virtually anything that is apart from my all of my client prep that's repeatable. So client preparation for sessions, I've offloaded. So effectively now, for the most part, and there's a decent amount of work that's in the background, I'm able to show up to a session on time, fully focus on my client. Anything that I need to do myself for preparation, anything that's repeatable in the backdrop has been already prepared for me, so I can focus fully on a quick preparation, be there fully in the session. And then we've shortened what would have taken quite a bit of time to about 15 minutes after a session. Everything is prepared for me so that I can send a quick response that's bottled up for my client, clear my head, focus on the next day for the next client.
Wow, that's really powerful. And if you don't have it, that's fine too. But any guesses in terms of how many hours a week or a month, day that you've now freed up working with Nolene?
It's disproportionate to the amount of hours that she's working. By that, what I mean
Sure,
is,
of course,
she's efficient. And if I were doing that, I would be inefficient.
Right.
So my gut would be, I probably have 30 hours of or 40 hours of spin and pain that I'm not doing
Wow.
And frankly, I couldn't be at the scale that I am right now without having that level of support in the background.
Yeah, that's, give or take 8 to 10 hours a week or so that you're able to do what you like, make more money, or actually imagine that having a little bit more free time.
And the biggest thing is just also mentally. I am free to focus where I truly need to be focused, where I can have the greatest leverage, where I can grow and scale my business. Or to your point, just take some time. Absolutely.
Yeah. Right. Which is that's usually one of the reasons we went into business for ourselves in the first place, is to be able to be in control of our time. Yeah.
That's exactly right.
Believe me, I get it. Eliot, this is awesome. When you are not working, what do you like to do?
Love traveling. So in fact, a couple of weeks, I'll be heading off to Europe for an amazing trip. Enjoy doing personal challenges. So I've got one coming up, a little physical challenge coming up in August. Love spending time with my kids. I've got a amazing freshman in high school, freshman in college. I guess now that it's summertime, they're incoming sophomores for both. And just spending time with friends and colleagues. I've got an amazing group of clients that actually have become friends, and so those are all things that energize me.
Sounds like life's pretty good. Eliot, thanks so much for sharing some of your insights and your story with us. If people want to learn more about you, where do they go?
Absolutely. If there may be a link that you provide, but if you just want to go to look up Eliot Wajskol on LinkedIn or at the EOS worldwide website, both are ways to find me.
Awesome. Eliot, thanks again for spending a few minutes with myself as well as the rest of the Work Better Now community. Really appreciate it.
And Rob, thank you for building a great organization. If I could just put a plug, the efficiency that we had working with you to find the right assistant, we were looking for something pretty specific. Someone who could both help us execute, but actually someone who could actually put in place the process and systems that we needed to have. And I'll tell you, the question that we asked was as we were interviewing was, have you ever been the boss of your boss? Because that's what we're looking for. And we found that through you. So thank you so much.
More than welcome. And I really appreciate the feedback. This is what we live for. We part of our mission is really to help our clients and our talent fulfill their dreams. And it sounds like we're able to do that just to some degree with you. And that's what we live for. So thank you.
Yeah. And Rob, I just want to put one last plug. Anyone who's looking at their world and they're saying, I'm doing something that I shouldn't quite be doing, it's creating drag. And there's other people in the world who might be able to do this a little bit better than I can. And if only I could get this off my plate, it would free me up to do the work I really need to do. There's an ROI on it. And so I just want to put a plug in for virtual assistants, because for me, it's an unlock, dramatically, radically changing my business and my personal life.
Yeah, we spoke really quickly about Strategic Coach. I think it was Dan Sullivan from Strategic Coach who said the number one investment you can make in your business as the owner is to get a personal assistant. And between that, and I don't know if you're familiar with Jack Daly, he says he's got a great one, more of a zinger, which is if you don't have an assistant, you are the assistant.
And I agree with both. Thank you.
Thanks again, Eliot.